Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Stansberry. I'm the Associate Vice Chancellor in the Division of Student Affairs here at East Carolina. I'm going to take my mask off just for the purposes of this so you can hear me. We are practicing safe social distancing here in the Student Center. We're going to do our best to deliver some messaging to you today. Now, keep in mind a couple things. One, we do not have all the answers right now for today, but we felt it was imperative for us to come and get in front of you, speak to you, and share with you what we do know, and understand that there are some elements that will be released and shared as we go through the course of the week ahead of us. The majority of what we're going to talk about today is going to relate to moving out, particularly for the students that are in the residence halls, what that process looks like. Bill McCartney, the Associate Vice Chancellor for Campus Living, will be here in just a minute. He'll walk through a little bit of that process as far as what students receive today in their ECU email account, and also some of the options that they have. There are two that they can explore, and Bill will talk about that coming up in just a little bit. In advance, I want to make sure too that people know we're not going to be talking about tuition fees. We're not going to be talking about financial aid type things today. Again, that information will be coming out, and it will be coming to you as soon as we have it. We're working with the UNC system on a lot of the details that go with this. Again, we just felt it was really important to get in front of you and share what we know as soon as we know it. And we've gotten some questions from you, especially from the parents who've worked with parent-family programs. So I want to kind of really just jump right into a couple of those here in just a second. But I want to give you just a quick message from our Chancellor this morning, Ron Mitchelson, a couple of the updates of where we are for today. Undergraduate classes will move online effective Wednesday, August 26th. Undergraduate classes will not take place on Monday and Tuesday, the 24th and the 25th. The extended deadline for withdrawing from academic courses without financial penalty has been extended to Friday, August 28th. The last day to withdraw without financial penalty for the 15-week courses. That first date was for the 8-week blocks. The 15-week is for September the 4th. Professional and graduate courses, they will continue as they have been currently operating. Students that are living again on campus in the residence halls, will have more of that information coming up here from Bill, but the students did get a message today from Campus Living around 10:30 this morning that detailed all the options and the things that they have. So it's a lot of information, and it's a very short period of time to process it. And I do want to take just a couple of minutes, and even before we get into the details, I want to share something as I came in today, kind of as a personal note, as somebody who's an alum, a two-time alum. Tomorrow should have been our day that we were starting classes. If we were in a normal world, tomorrow would have been the first day of classes, and we would have been having people finishing up moving in. And instead today, as I come into the building, I see people that are moving out. And that's very disheartening to see that, because that's not the way that it should be, and that's not the way that we should be having our campus go. So understand this is not normal for any of us. Our chancellor, he worked tirelessly to try and find ways for us to stay on campus, and for us to stay in an on-campus environment where our students would not miss out. You know, our high school seniors, mine own included, they got robbed of their senior year. And now, unfortunately, they're kind of getting robbed out of their first year of being freshmen. I apologize, I'm a little bit emotional with this because it does hurt. It is a profession that we do, but it's also very personal to all of us. Student health professionals, they've been phenomenal. They've been working 7 days a week. They've been trying to make it so that our campus is safe, that the students are safe, that the faculty and staff have all the information that they need so that we can stay on campus. We've got some of our staff in campus living, in Dean of Students, in student health, that were driving students back and forth from campus when they were sick to get to a secure place at 11 o'clock at night. We really did everything that we could to try and make it so that our students could keep this environment. Our police officers were going around responding to requests from folks to try and get people to make sure that their gatherings were small so that we could, again, stay in a healthy environment. And unfortunately, it was definitely not for lack of effort and lack of try and lack of will. We were unable to stay in an environment where we could keep folks on campus, and the priority of keeping our students safe, it just wasn't there. And so we had to go to this option where we switched to online. And so that, again, that a little bit of a kind of a personal statement there, but there was a lot of folks, I know that parents may not necessarily always get to see all of the work that goes in behind the scenes to try and see what we could do to make sure that we were able to stay on campus. And it just got to be overwhelming to the point where student safety had to be the top priority of making sure that we have to go to online and not do face-to-face. Couple of questions I talked about parents have already sent in advance that they wanted to know about. There will be refund information related to housing dining that will be coming out this week. We've got some of those details, the majority of the details will be worked out. It will relate to some of what Bill's gonna talk about here as far as the decision for students that end up staying on campus. Obviously, the refund would not apply. For those that move out, depending on when they move out, that will be another part of the refund process. That will all be released. All that information, you're gonna be able to keep these updates. The ECU website, obviously, many of you know to go there, ecu.edu for the homepage, and you'll see it in the banner. But you can also, and we've got folks that can put this into the chat, go.ecu.edu/coronavirus. You're gonna be able to get updates throughout as we go through this process, and you're gonna be able to see everything that we have as the information comes in. One of the questions that we have gotten, if you have a student that is in quarantine or isolation, and we've talked about the move out process being through August the 30th when folks are gonna have to move out. If we have students, even if they were to go into quarantine or isolation today, they're gonna be handled a little bit differently. Campus Living is going to work with them. They're gonna have one-to-one, case-by-case scenarios. They're not gonna have to come out of quarantine to move out of their residence hall. We're gonna work with them on what that process looks like. But if there are students in isolation and quarantine, there will be a different process for them than for a student that is not. If for those students that are moving out, again, Bill come in here in just a second. He can talk about what they need to move out, how they need to move out, and go through that process. Some folks have wondered about dining. We will have dining options throughout the move-out week, much like we have been. Beyond that, we will kind of make a plan that will be based off of the number of students that are on campus and how we end up moving around. So I've alluded to Bill a couple of times. I'm gonna let Bill kind of work his way up here. For my safety and his, I'm gonna step out to the side and I'm gonna let him kind of talk about the move-out process and what was shared with the students today. Bill?
Hello. I talk to parents a lot. Very rarely do we talk because of what we're going through at the moment as a part of that. So let me start though by saying that we don't feel like we have to force your student out. If your student wants to remain on campus, the message that they got today gave them the option to fill out a form from us and request for the ability to stay on campus. So anyone who wants to remain on campus can do so. If they fill out that form and request that they want to stay, we will primarily allow everyone who requests to stay there. We will be doing some special evaluation with a select smaller group of students who we honestly have had some problems with them following the COVID guidelines. And if your son or daughter might fall into that category, we're going to be having some special conversations with them relative to whether we keep them on campus or not. But other than that, in general, if you want your student to stay, they can. They just need to go to that original message that they got from us, go to the link to make the request, and make the request by 5 p.m. on this Wednesday. If they do make that request to stay on campus, they do so knowing that they're likely to be reassigned. Any student who remains on campus for the remainder of the fall semester will be moved into a single room by themselves. We will be moving people into a select number of buildings based on how many people they are. It's safer that way rather than spread people out all over campus from a physical safety standpoint. But everyone will end up actually in their own room, which will allow for greater distancing as a part of that. There will be no charge for that single room. So single rooms that we will move people into, your rent will stay the same as if you paid it already for wherever it is that your son or daughter might be living. So I would encourage you to have that conversation. We have not, as a university, changed the freshman residency requirement. If your student comes back to face-to-face classes in the spring, the expectation is if they're in face-to-face classes that they would be living on campus again in the spring. We expect to send out very specific information about how to reapply, in essence, for housing. Later on this fall, we would think probably that information will be coming out in early November, and we'll be sending it to the student's email. Everything we do from a communication standpoint for housing and dining is going to the student's university email account, so it's really important that people pay attention to that. As we look at the move-out process, think of it very much like the drop-off process that you went through. There is a link in the message that students got for you to go and sign up for a time as a family to move your child out. We'll allow the student and 2 people to come assist the student. We ask obviously that you wear masks. We ask that you sign up for a time so that we can social distance through this process. And there will be carts again available like they were during drop-off and move-in, and so there will be some assistance. You really need to prepare to come though. You prepared to drop people off and you brought lots of boxes and containers and other things with you. You're gonna need those same things back with you when you come again if your student is deciding to move home. So make sure that you come prepared, cardboard boxes, plastic containers that I saw people with. Remember, clothes go really well into garbage bags rather than trying to put them in suitcases and other things that don't fit as easily in the car. Make sure that you bring with you those things that you might need. If you built something, I saw parents moving in shelving units and other things that they needed tools to put together. Make sure you bring those tools when you come so that you can take those things apart and take them with you. As students move out, if that's the choice you're making, then everything they brought with them needs to go home at this point in time. We're not allowing people to leave anything in their rooms because we will be reassigning and repositioning people who remain on campus. The process is fairly simple. I mean, you will show up during that time that you've signed up for. You'll meet up with your student, you'll collect all those belongings, you'll get those things loaded onto your vehicle. Hopefully not vehicles plural, but at least vehicle. And before leaving campus, it's essential that your student drop their keys and fob off at the neighborhood service office that they operate out of. When they go there, they should also make sure that they pick up whatever mail might be that they might have at that point in time before leaving campus. While I'm talking about mail for a second, I also encourage you to talk to your student to see if they've ordered anything online from any company. They should try to go out right now and see if they can change the address that they want that mailed to your home address or wherever they're going, because there is no need for them to be getting packages shipped to us here, so we return them so they have to get shipped again. So see if you can short circuit that kind of problem on the front end by going online and making sure you make that change of address for where whatever you've ordered might be returned to. When you arrive on campus, one of the main differences is the campus is open now. So when you came through drop-off this summer, things weren't open. So you will see the Student Center open. You will see that you would be able to eat when you're here as well, because the dining halls are open and our retail is open. And so there are more support services on campus, as you would expect, and all of those regular services for your son and daughter on the food side will remain open through Saturday the 29th. Once we get to Sunday the 30th, we will have only a single dining hall open for that Sunday. We expect, because of that 5 p.m. deadline on Wednesday for people to tell us who's remaining, once we get to that Wednesday deadline, we'll be able to plan what food service beyond that dining hall will remain open as we go into the coming weeks. And we do expect there to be more than just the single dining hall open, because our meal plan is based also on eating and retail, so we will have some retail options that are available for students while they remain on campus. The other big difference between now and last spring is when we closed last year in March, students, as they got a message that there were going to be limited services on campus if they remain. We will still be open because of classes, something that it was a little different from last spring. So you will see that student health remains open. You'll see that the Student Center remains open. Obviously, we'll be open in housing and we'll have people there. So you don't have to worry about the fact that there won't be services if your son or daughter decides to stay. We intend to make sure that those services remain available to them, particularly student health, particularly the counseling center, particularly those other things that they might need while they're here. The key return is crucial. The refund that people will receive if the keys are returned prior to August 30th will be based on that end date to the contract, which is August 30th. Anyone who does not turn in their keys on that date will see that their refund date will not go into effect until the keys and fob are actually returned to us. Now, we do know that there is one exception that we'll be making. We have a number of students who are ill right now or in quarantine and isolation. we will be sending a separate message to those people on how to check out, how to get their belongings. We will not penalize them for the fact that they are ill right now, and we'll continue to maintain that date with them as long as when they get out of quarantine or isolation, they return their keys to us immediately and move out immediately as a part of that. So let's move, as I feel like I'm talking a little too fast here, but let's move to the idea that you've chosen to have your students stay with us, and they are going to stay with us. So when we reach that August 30th deadline, students who are remaining on campus will stay right in the room where they are on August 30th. It will take us about 1 full week to go in, verify that spaces are empty, clean the rooms before students move into them, reassign the keys, reassign the students, and then our intention is to have students move into their new spaces over Labor Day weekend. And we're really wanting to use that Saturday, Sunday, Monday so they can get repositioned and settled so that when they start back on classes on Tuesday, they've got their personal life in order by already living where they're supposed to be. We will be doing some things that are a little unique to us. We will be in some ways bubbling our varsity athletes. So if you have a child who is a part of one of our athletic teams, all of the athletes will be moved into one building by themselves to try to maintain the integrity of their health as they might be performing or competing as we go through the fall semester. We typically don't isolate our athletes like that, but we will be doing. They will also be living in a same kind of single room situation that other students will. We then will use as many other buildings as we need to allow students to live in them at one building, one person per room per building. And we'll be, once we know what those numbers are, we'll know where that is. We primarily are desiring to house students on College Hill in the College Hill neighborhood, where they live close to where eating facilities are. And where there's lots of outdoor eating opportunities so that they can gather outdoors, which is far safer than being, gathering inside from that standpoint. We have made a decision as an institution also with any of the students who will be remaining and moving into new housing, we will be doing COVID testing for those students on either that Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday after August 30th. And that way those students will have those test results back before they would move. We will know that we'll be moving everybody who is healthy into our new housing. And anyone who might test positive at that, we would move them into other housing until they again are able to come back to that general population, so to speak. This is, Chris says, this is a difficult time. A parent sent me this really wonderful quote this morning, and she said her boss told her to her recently. She actually works in the public school system at the University, not the University of Georgia, but in Georgia. And her supervisor told her that I'm used to making decisions that make some people unhappy. What I'm not used to doing is making decisions that makes everybody unhappy. And to some degree, that's what it feels like these days. We're trying our best. We're trying to protect your student. We're trying to protect the institution. We want your child to have this great experience in college, like all of us who work here because we had a great experience in college. But it seems like we run into many roadblocks along the way, and at this point, the illness is defining for us what we need to do. It's not a choice that we want to make or your student wants us to make or possibly you want us to make. But we do think that we're going about this in the best way possible for you and for your student. So if there are questions, I think some are coming up, so we'll get a few questions in a second.
You want to look through some of those?
Or you want to read them?
So yeah, you look through some of those, and I'll just kind of follow up on a couple of the things that Bill said. Is that a couple of the action items right now for the students, particularly living in the residence halls, would be to make sure they're going to make a decision. And so there's some conversations that we're going to encourage you as parents need to be having with your student. One, if they are going to decide that you're going to move out, make sure you have a conversation as your student with the family to decide when is it you're going to come, making sure that they pick the time that you're going to be able to come to campus and help them move things out, making sure that everybody's going to be available to do that. They're going to be able to do some help, but you want to make sure that you have that conversation. If you're gonna make the decision to fill out the exception to stay on campus, make sure that both sides are in understanding of what's going on. A lot of times you're gonna have a student that's gonna make one decision and the parent's thinking a different decision. That's a conversation that parent and student need to make sure that you're having. A couple of the questions that have come in, a lot of the information that you're looking for as far as positive cases and there's a dashboard on the ECU website that you'll be able to see that's regularly updated, that you'll be able to see where we are as a university and how things are going case by case and situation by situation as best we can. Again, I want to repeat a couple of the other elements that would relate to students that are in quarantine or isolation are going to be able to they're going to be handled case by case. Campus living staff will reach out to them, they will get a communication, they will talk through the process, they will coordinate. Student health will obviously be a part of that. We want to make sure that they're officially cleared to come out of either isolation or quarantine, and then we'll work on that move out process if they indeed decide to move out. Patience and flexibility is something that we've become very good at, and we're asking for everybody that's working with us in this case to do that too. Bill, I'm kind of looking your way. I don't know if there's any that you want to come back up and address. A couple of questions that have come in.
There are, you'll have to put up with me getting my glasses on here. My eyes are very tired, and not that I am, but my eyes are. One of the questions is about mail and can it be forwarded? Yes, you can forward mail. You actually forward mail by going to the USPS website and registering to forward your mail through that governmental agency, so it never arrives with us. You don't do forwarding mail through us in that sense. There's a question about whether or not we have any way of storing large items. We do not have any way of storing large items on campus. I know many people brought rugs and other kinds of things with them. There is not a way for us to manage or handle that for you. There are many storage units in town, and you could think about that. With coming back in the spring, a couple months rental of a small storage unit, it may make sense for your belongings to go there rather than travel with you. That you'll be able to find the information on all of those places online and do that search in advance. There's a couple of questions that deal with housing assignments for next spring. As we just all became aware of this from a housing front within the last 24 hours, all of our efforts have been about how we're going to manage and work our way through this. We expect to send out information about spring housing in early November, like I mentioned before. We're going to actually have what will in essence be a smaller version of a reapplication process for students who would be coming back for face-to-face instruction in the spring. We will at that time attempt to honor roommate requests. We will at that time attempt to, particularly with the living learning communities, reconstruct the living learning communities in some way. The challenge will be at that point in time for us is that your assignment may not be back in the building that you were living in before you would move out. I say that for a number of reasons, because we may not be opening all of our buildings back up depending on how many people request to come back and live on campus in the spring, and we've not yet figured out, knowing how many people are staying with us now, we've not figured out the impact of where those people are and whether or not we let them stay where they are, so we're not relocating them too. And so we will figure out those challenges. We'll communicate very clearly and as often as we can with students about coming back in the spring and what plans they should make about that. But expect the first of that to happen late October, more likely early November. Oh, I lost my password here.
3737.
Let me see what else we have here. I think that handles, there are many questions that aren't housing related on here, and not right now don't have all the answers for those kinds of questions. The university will be communicating those other things to you as we go through the week and the next couple of weeks. And so that's probably it from updating for the questions that have come in online.
Thank Bill. Again, we understand that there's a lot of questions that you want answers to, and we're working on them. We are working with the UNC system on a lot of them. As for those that may not know, ECU is a part of the UNC system, which is 16 campuses across the state. And so a lot of our decision-making goes up through the UNC system and the system president, and there's a lot of coordination that goes back and forth. So again, to Bill's point, things related to financial aid and some of the other tuition questions that have come in, those will be answered in the days to come. There will be a lot of transparency. As much as we can share with you, we're going to share with you. We'll have a call center that'll be open throughout this week from 9 to 4, and we're going to have staff. Many of the same staff that have been working like crazy to try and keep us open are going to be the ones that are going to be staffing the call center to try and answer your questions, because we know that you have questions. We just ask that you have patience. Please keep checking the website. Remind me now, go.ecu.edu/coronavirus is the best one. And if you never know for certain, go to the ecu.edu homepage, and you're going to be able to find a lot of that information. So please be patient. Most of all, please be safe. We thank you for joining us for this communication, and we will reach back out for future Facebook Lives as the time comes up. Thank you.